So I have not one, not two, but 3 different versions of the original Naked palette from Urban Decay to swatch and try out today. When I heard that they were bringing this back, I was so excited. This is the palette that got me in to makeup. This was my first ever high-end eyeshadow palette, and I mean literally this one from 2011. I got it for Christmas. It was my first palette from Sephora. It was the best Christmas ever, and I have saved this 13 years later, and this is what she's looking like. I do not use this palette anymore. I have used this palette to this extent. None of the shadows broke. I have used every ounce of product here that you do not see. This was the first thing I ever hit pan on. This was my life. So I love this palette. It's very special to me. When they discontinued it in 2018, I was crushed. So I decided I would buy another one, and not really as a backup, but more so as a collector's piece. I bought this in 2018. It has been in my possession since then, and I have never swatched it. It is in pristine condition. It's basically a relic at this point. But I do have this. And then I also just picked up the re-released limited quantity, limited edition version of this palette today. It released today, August 4th. It's exclusive to Ulta in stores and online. My Ulta store only had 3 left, so I'm so happy I was able to snag this. I also picked up the original primer potion because this was the iconic duo. I'm pretty sure my original palette came with a little mini version of this. I decided to pick up the travel size because I don't really use eyeshadow primer anymore, but I had to do it for this video. I will say that this is supposedly reformulated. I also saw a TikTok going into detail as far as like the grams of the product, and it appears that the new version of the palette has less product than the original. Originally, I think it was like $44 or $46, somewhere around there. And this palette that I purchased today was $59. Now, when it came out, it was 2010, so you're talking almost 15 years ago at this point. There is definitely an increase in price and a decrease in product, so I'll link the TikTok down below. Allie actually sent it to me, so I'll have that link down below in case you want to watch the whole thing. I thought it was pretty informative and interesting, but I honestly, I had to have it either way, so I'll have it linked down below if you're interested. I'm very excited to try this and open it and look at it and just see what a fresh Naked palette looks like because it's been years. So we're gonna do a little unboxing of the palette. I'm so excited to see what this looks like. Oh my gosh. Oh, it has the same velvety texture. Oh, it's beautiful. Oh my gosh. I have my phone set up over here. So I'm kind of like looking in 2 places, but it's stunning. Let's do a little side-by-side comparison compared to my original palette that is 13 years old. That's crazy. It's the same exact size. The back looks a little bit different, but I mean, mine has like a sticker on it. There's literally something stuck to, this is filthy. Okay, here we go for the grand reveal. Oh my God. It's beautiful. It looks exactly like I remember. It does have a double-ended brush, which is nice. I actually have the original brush that mine came with, and it was just one-sided, and I used the crap out of this thing. I used this for my crease. I used this for my lid. I used this brush for everything for years, before I even owned makeup brushes. So this thing was great. We'll see how the new one that comes with it performs, but I'll give you a close-up of the shadows. Here is a good close-up. You can see the different textures and shades, and here's what it looks like. The mirror is larger than my previous one. You can see a little side by side. The mirror is smaller on the older one, and the word naked is also smaller, but everything else looks exactly the same. Now I am super interested, and I'm going to open up the one that I bought in 2018. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, so the one in 2018 obviously is pristine, and it also, it looks different. It looks a little different. There's one shade in particular that looks different, and I like the newer version. Like, I like the way it looks in the pan. So here are the two palettes. On the bottom here is the one that I purchased today. So this is like the new palette. This is the new one from 2018. The one shade that looks different to me is Sidecar, which is this shade right here. It looks so much more sparkly and glittery in this bottom palette, which again is the newer reformulated version. Here it's definitely still like a shimmer shade, but I feel like you can see the difference. That is the only one where it truly looks different. Pretty much everything else, Smog looks a little bit shinier on the new version, a little bit more like metallic, but everything else looks identical. I'm gonna have to like make sure I keep these separate so that I know which one is which. The one from 2018 also has a double-ended brush. It looks to be the same brush. Oh no, it is a little bit different. The actual like handle of it is different. So this is the older version. It's like more of like a metal brush. I think my Naked 2 palette had something that just looked just like this, but the new one that just launched today has this brush here with a clear like plastic center. And the actual like ends of the brush, they look slightly different as well. You can see this end is the more similar side, and then we have this side as well. So we're gonna go in and swatch the Urban Decay Naked Palette 2024 version. I'm gonna swatch them all, but I just need to start with the shade Sidecar. So here is the shade Sidecar. This shade is, are you kidding? I wish that I could swatch my OG Sidecar, but there is no leftover. It is a completely empty metal pan. The first shade that I actually ran out of first was Toasty, and I loved it so much, or Toasted, sorry. Loved it so much that I purchased it in a single shadow because it was like my favorite. So we'll swatch this one. It looks different than I remember. So we will see. I don't recall, I thought it was more like sparkly and textured than this, but that is also so creamy and beautiful. Oh my gosh. Half Baked is a classic, so of course we will go in with Half Baked. The shimmers are a 10 out of 10. I love this formula. Let's do Sin. Sin is another shade that I loved. I loved pretty much all of like the sparkly shades that were like medium to light tones. Oh my gosh, this is like making me so excited. Next up we have Virgin, which was like the brow bone highlight of the decade. Then we have the shade Naked, which is such a pretty, just like kind of cool toned, but also neutral matte shade. Next we have Buck, which, whoa, that looks so different than what I remember. Buck was a warm toned brown. That is an ashy mid-toned brown. That is not the Buck that I remember. Then we have Smog, which pretty spot on to what I recall. Next we have Dark Horse and Hustle. Now we're getting into the shades that I didn't really use a whole lot. I feel like I remember Hustle being more of a like pinky tone shade, but it again looks more like a gunmetal kind of color. It has a little bit of like brown undertone, but that's different than what I recall. I thought it was more purpley. Then we have Creep, which is the sparkly black shade, and then this shade is actually called Gunmetal, which is a very sparkly gray color. So those are stunning. I have no complaints. Other than Buck, I'm about to swatch my original Buck and see how it compares. So I'm going into Buck from my 2011 palette, and I'm gonna swatch it next to the Buck in, oh my God, it's the same. It's like, no, it's different. The original Buck is definitely a little bit more warm tone. It's not as warm toned as I thought it was, but this is definitely more of like an ashier kind of gray brown color, but that formula is still looking pretty good for a 13-year-old eyeshadow palette. I'll swatch anything else that I have like left over. So this is Naked. That shade is a little bit drier, but you can still see same color. We'll do Half Baked if I can get my finger to swatch. Okay, Half Baked looks the same. Yeah, Half Baked is pretty spot on. Okay, next we have Smog and Dark Horse, which are down here. The old Smog is low-key looking a little bit better. Oh, or did I switch those? I might have switched those. No, those are just different. Those are completely different colors. The old Smog, I like the old Smog better. Oh, you know what? I did miss them. These should be up one. I still like the old Smog better, and Dark Horse used to be a deeper shade. Here's Hustle. Hustle is this shade right here. So we're gonna swatch on, oh my. I'm so confused now. Which one is that supposed to be? Because that doesn't look like anything that I have swatched on my arm. And then we have Creep and Gunmetal, which we will finish things off with. Creep, ooh, that didn't swatch well. And Gunmetal, that looks pretty close. Creep wasn't the best swatch, but again, it's an old palette, and I feel like black eyeshadows never really swatch well. So that's what I've got for you there. I do have my original palette. If you want to see swatches of this, please let me know. I don't know if I should swatch it. I feel like I need to keep it in pristine condition, at least for now. I don't know what to do. So if you want to see it, let me know if it really, like, if that would make a big difference to you. But for now, she's going back in the box. I just made that executive decision, but again, here are the swatches. I still, even though some of the shades don't look quite exact, we knew that it was reformulated, so I knew it wasn't going to be an exact swatching situation, but I'm really impressed with all of the new swatches. So, and that one makeup wipe took care of all of those swatches. Now it's time for the application. I'm using this lip balm from Buxom. It's the Full On something. It's like a lipsticky lip balm. It's in the shade Rose All Day. I'll have this link down below. It's so pretty. Also the blush that I'm wearing, I'm freaking obsessed with. This was my first time trying this Milk Makeup like jelly tint blush. I'm obsessed. I was so scared to use this because it's like, it looks intense, but I like layered this on and it is the most beautiful flush of color. I also have it in the shade Splash. I'm wearing the shade Chill. Chill is the one I have on. I also have Splash. Cannot wait to try those. I also tried out a concealer brush, a brush specifically for applying concealer that looks like this, which is, I feel like, super unique. BK Brushes sent me these. BK Beauty sent me this brush as well as this foundation brush to try. Haven't tried this one yet, but I tried this concealer brush out today and it's pretty freaking awesome. It's the A506 and it's the Angie Hot and Flashy concealer brush. So I'll link this down below as well in case you're interested. So now I'm gonna zoom you in like I used to do all the time. And we're gonna apply our eyeshadow primer. This is the original eyeshadow primer potion. Love that it has a little doe foot applicator now. If I recall, this is like a super thin eyeshadow primer. I used to use eyeshadow primer until pretty much like this year. I stopped. I just don't really feel like it's necessary anymore. I love the MAC paint pots. If I am gonna use an eyeshadow primer, it's gonna be a MAC paint pot, and this is nothing like that. This is very sheer and thin and almost like slick, like slippery feeling compared to the paint pots, which are like almost like a tackier, like like a cream eyeshadow basically, and very opaque. So we have our eyes primed. We're gonna go in with this bad boy here, and I am gonna do a basic look because that is what the Naked palette is all about. I'm gonna use the little brush that it came with, and we are gonna go into the shade Naked. So I'm like, I kind of want to just channel my 9th grade self from 2011 and just do an eye look that I would have done back in the day. Back when I would watch makeup videos on YouTube and everyone had like a code name, like a code name username. Nobody used their actual name as their like YouTube account name. So I remember a few, like Stila Babe 09, Mac Barbie 07, I think. There were a few, Juicy Star was one, 11th Gorgeous, the sisters, I forget their names, Tracy and Stephanie, maybe something like that. Let me know if you have, or who your like OG beauty YouTubers that you watched were, if you watched YouTube back then. That was like a different era. It was a different era of online world. This eyeshadow is stunning, but it is very cool toned compared to what I'm used to. Now I'm gonna take the, like, I'm using the fluffier side of the brush, and now I'm gonna go into Buck, which is the like deeper matte shade, and I'm gonna tap that in my outer corner. It's looking very cool toned, very like grayish on my eye, both of those shades. It's almost, dare I say, looking a little muddy. Was that just how eyeshadow was back in the day though? I feel like that's not translating well. It looks like I'm smearing gray eyeshadow everywhere. Wait, why am I so sad right now? Okay, well, now I'm gonna go into Sidecar with my finger, and I'm gonna put this on my lid because this can't be bad. Like, this has to be good. Now we're talking. Okay, Sidecar is so sparkly. This might save the palette for me. Those matte shades they are a muddy mess. Oh my god, why does that look so bad? It could be a few things. It could be the eyeshadow primer, it could be the brush, it could be the formula slash like new kind of like colors. I was like expecting something different, so my application wasn't right, but that does not look good. It just looks messy and like smoky, but not in a good way. I feel like on camera it doesn't look as bad. It's not terrible, but it just didn't translate the way I thought it was going to. Now I'm gonna go in with the smaller end of the brush, and I'm gonna go into the shade Virgin, which is like a satin finish, and I'm gonna put that on my brow bone because that's what I would have done when I was 13. And then we're gonna go on this side. That color is really pretty. It honestly is kind of giving a little bit of a white cast though. So I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it's kind of like, yeah, you can definitely see that like white cast in like a weird way. And then I'm gonna go into Sin, and I'm gonna use the same smaller side of the brush, and I'm gonna put that on my inner corner. So what I'm getting here is the shimmers are amazing and the mattes are a little iffy. I'm gonna use the smaller side of the brush again, and let's go into Toasted, and I'm gonna put this on my lower lash line. Okay, so the look definitely came together. It was looking a little bit scary there for a moment when I just had the matte shadows on. I do wish that it was like a warmer toned brown that like shaded my crease Buck, but it's not bad. The shade Sidecar is the best shade in the palette. Sidecar and Half Baked is another really good one, but Sidecar, it's so good. Let me swatch it again so you can see it up close. Here is Sidecar. It is like, that is fantastic. It's so sparkly. It has so many little sparkles in there, and then you can kind of blend it out, and there's just so much dimension. So I feel like my eyes are definitely more kind of like grungy than I was expecting, but it's still super cute. I'm gonna put some mascara on and then we'll come back for final thoughts. So I think the mascara really pulled this look together. I used the Rare Beauty mascara. I forget what it's called, but I'll have it linked down below. But here's the finished look. I love the eyes. It's definitely giving me high school like flashbacks, except probably is applied a little bit better than I did back in high school. I love the way that my makeup looks right now. It might be like part nostalgic, but I feel like I haven't had this effect on my eyes in a really long time. I don't know, you let me know what you think. I did a super simple, easy look, but I still used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 12 eyeshadows. So I definitely was able to kind of like test the variety. I never really used dark eyeshadows, so these shades, these like last 3 shades here, I just know I'm not gonna get a lot of use out of. But pretty much everything else I could absolutely see myself using and will be using. It's so, just like feeling it, the like velvety, kind of like felty feel that this has is just so nostalgic to me. But I was scared there for a minute. You guys saw that I was scared, I was worried, I was thinking, oh no, what did Urban Decay do? But I think they really pulled through and I love my eyeshadow look. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you still have your original Naked palette and if it looks as bad as mine does. The cardboard is literally peeling off. It's like paper. But yeah, that was an interesting video. It was a fun little trip down memory lane. What a comparison, right? Like, oh my gosh. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I love you so, so much. I hope you have a wonderful day and I will see you in the next one. Bye.